So I'm just gonna be honest with you guys, this is the third time that I'm trying to film this video. I have just kind of resigned myself to the fact that I'm gonna be looking down at my script because I am getting too in my head about this video, and there's just been a lot going on and it's what I need right now. So if I look down at the table, just pretend that I'm not, okay? So the topic of this video is something that I've really wanted to talk about for a very long time because it is something that I didn't realize was affecting me as much as it did until I just basically had this firestorm of stuff happen to me in the past 4 weeks. And it's discussing this pressure that I feel like a lot of us have to post onto social media, to keep a consistent schedule on social media in order to, essentially grow. And thank you as always to my Patreon supporters who have been extremely understanding this past month as I was sick with COVID and all of that stuff. If you would like to join them, then you can head on over to patreon.com/vaultfox, where if you actually sign up for the $5 or $10 tier in September, you will get access to a free 5x7 print of my Bo-Katan. Thank you guys, Patreons, you are amazing. We're all told, or at least I know from the things that I've watched, that, if you want to grow on YouTube, you need to post once a week. If you can post twice a week, that's even better. If you want to grow on Instagram, nowadays you have to post reels, even if you don't want to post reels. I don't even know what the TikTok requirements are right now. Like, there's a reason I don't TikTok anymore, because back whenever I was on there, they said you needed to post like 3 to 6 times a day minimum. And I was like, that ain't for me. I do not have time for that, and that's just gonna burn me out, and it did burn me out, so that's why I'm not on TikTok anymore. And obviously, as somebody who has a YouTube channel, I struggle with this a lot because I do enjoy creating videos and showing you guys how I make the things that I make. However, I do not consider myself a content creator. I wanted to talk about just some of the dangers of thinking of ourselves as making things purely to post them online. I feel like all of us on the internet know that this is happening. Like, we all know these social media apps are essentially forcing us to make certain types of content. Whenever I originally started getting my ideas down on paper, I reached out to you guys on Twitter and also in Instagram DMs and asked you guys if you feel pressure to create new stuff on Instagram or just in social media in general. And I wasn't surprised when the vast majority of you responded, yes, I absolutely do feel this pressure. A lot of you also, I wasn't surprised, didn't really know what to do about it. And it made me feel a lot better because most of the time whenever I'm creating my videos, I try to offer a solution to a problem. And it's just my nature. I want to be helpful. I want to do what I can and give you my experience to, help you along with your problems. And this is one of those things where I do have a few things that I do to kind of make the problem not as bad, but there's no foolproof situation, or there's no foolproof, solution to it, at least in my eyes. So it made me feel a lot better about just making this video and it being a discussion. And thank you again to everyone who shared your experiences on the screen. I really do appreciate it. It helped me to not feel alone, and hopefully, seeing all these people who are feeling kind of the same way as you are will help you feel not alone as well. So the whole reason that I actually started scripting this video way back when was because I watched this video by Stroofless called "There's a Problem with the Internet That Nobody is Talking About." And in it, he talks about how a lot of the things that we do creatively, they're all kind of getting lumped into one group, and everything is being called content. If you are an artist, if you are a cosplayer, if you are a author, or, so many different varieties of creating things, you are now a content creator. Obviously, you don't have to refer to yourself as a content creator. I personally do not. However, I struggle with the fact that, so much of what is on the internet is just called content because it's just easier that way. And that video really struck a chord with me, and he talked about a lot of things that I already know in my head are true. Like, he specifically talks about how trying to go viral and gaining support that way is not sustainable. And I know that. I know, I don't want to go viral. I almost kind of cringe whenever some of my videos or reels or stuff kind of blow up, because in my opinion, I am more of a person who really does enjoy the slow growth that I have. I have a small community over here. I really appreciate it. I feel like I can get back to everybody within a reasonable amount of time. It's not like, I just feel like going viral would be like super stressful. He talks about how that's just, you know, it's not sustainable. You can't have everyone's attention 100% of the time. It's just not possible. So then if I know that, how come every single time I'm posting a video or I'm posting something to Instagram, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh man, I hope this does well. Or like, if this popped off, that would be really awesome. Or like, I would get a bunch of followers out of that. I know that that's not what I want. And I know that that's not, you know, the most sustainable way of doing things. And yet I still kind of secretly yearn for that, you know? And so whenever I like kind of sat down and really thought about what I do and who I am, the first thing that I really would hope you guys get from my videos is the idea that you can do this too. I may 3D print something, or I may make something out of some type of material, and I'm always the first person to say, if you don't have a 3D printer or you can't afford this specific material, use what's in your budget. I really just want to come on here and inspire more people to, you know, obviously I would love more people to cosplay, but just like get in touch with like being creative in general, because I went so long in my adult life with just kind of like pushing it aside and thinking like, oh, I'm not perfect at it. I'm not amazing at it. So why am I doing it? Everyone has something to give and something to put out into the world. And that's what I would really hope a lot of people get from my content. So whenever I like started to think of myself, even subconsciously as a content creator, I think that's whenever I started to slowly kind of burn myself out over time. And I think that the way that that happened was because I no longer was looking at, like, let's say my Bo-Katan cosplay. I was no longer looking at that cosplay as, oh, this is something I created and put into the world and I'm so happy and so proud of it. When I look at that costume, I almost instinctively start to look at all of the content that I can put out for it. So what I'm saying is, like, I can put out the tutorial for the helmet, I can put out tutorials for all the armor, you know, I can make little skits and stuff on TikTok, and I can like post photo shoots and stuff on Twitter and things like that. And I was going further and further away from the actual reason that I make things. And I realized things were getting really bad whenever I didn't feel like making the thing itself was enough. You have to make the reel about it. You have to promote it. You have to make sure everyone sees it. And it's so exhausting. It's so tiring to, you know, work so hard. Like, I worked on this Bo-Katan costume for 2 years, and I still feel like it's not enough, and I still feel like it's not done because I have all of these tutorials that I still have not filmed for you guys. It's right there in front of me. It's done. But I can't internalize that it's done because I'm looking at it and I see all of the things that I still need to do. And the worst part of all of that is all of that stuff that I need to do, I want to do. Thing is, and I think a lot of you understand, is it takes me a long time to make costumes. I know I'm not in the minority there. I am just not someone that can create costumes every month. It's just not, I can't do it. You know, you could spend, you know, hundreds and hundreds of hours on something and you post it online, and within like a flick of someone's thumb, it's gone. You know, if you're lucky, they liked it. If you're really lucky, they commented it. And if you're extra lucky, you're like, they shared it with somebody. You know, whenever you think of the things that you make in that way, it can be very, very just like upsetting, you know? It can feel like you're never going to be able to catch up. It can feel like you're never going to be able to do enough to just like keep above water on these platforms, you know? And even though I know I personally take a long time to make costumes, that doesn't mean that I don't feel that pressure to constantly make new things or to want to make new content. Like, I can't tell you the amount of times I have had the idea to make some kind of video that goes in line with, you know, a movie coming out, or even like right now, I have a tech helmet in the basement that is halfway finished because I was like, I'm gonna finish this for the Bad Batch premiere. And now I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to even get anything done this month because of just what everything happened, because life happened, you know? The more I thought about making that helmet for the premiere and making a video, the less excited I got about it, because it almost felt like I had to make it for the premiere, or if I didn't make it then to get like the most amount of views or traction out of it, then it wasn't worth it. And that's whenever I realized I had a really big problem with social media. And again, I want to reiterate something that I talked about in the beginning, where it feels like the thing that we're creating, like the art, the costume, how that doesn't feel like enough. Like we feel like we have to document the process. We have to do all of these extra things for people to care about what we do. I don't know how to fix it, but I wish that we could. As much as I love Tech, I love that character, whenever I started equating it to making content out of it, it just felt so hollow and so empty. And I know that there are times that I have to push through and film videos whenever I'm not feeling 100%, but there was just something about the way that I felt whenever I sat down to write the script for that video, or, you know, like it just didn't feel right. It felt like I was doing a disservice to the character. It felt like I was doing cosplay for the wrong reasons in that moment. The thing is like with cosplay and me, it's not even about the finished costume. It's not even about the tutorials and all this stuff that I put on. Like I have been unapologetically, annoying about the fact that these are my favorite videos to make. I love talking about cosplay and talking about like the struggles that we all go through in order to make our costumes, and that's what I find interesting. And it's like, yes, the costume is important, obviously, but it's one small piece of an entire process and a whole community that I just absolutely love and just want to talk more about and get more people into. So I try my best with the stuff that I put out there, like my Instagram posts, my Twitter, and all that stuff, to really kind of hammer home like, yes, I make costumes. Yes, I will show you how to make them, but I also want you to put yourself into that as well. I can show you how to make it, but you have to enjoy making it, and you have to find what you enjoy about the hobby. And I haven't even talked about people that do this as like their full-time gig, because one, this isn't my full-time gig. I can't speak to that. And two, I know that there are certain things that they have to do. Like they have to stay relevant. They have to try and, keep up with that kind of stuff because it's their job. It's their source of income. Everyone thinks that you find your passion or you find that thing that you love and you're never going to work a day in your life. And I think by now all of us probably know that that is absolutely 100% false, because yes, you may enjoy what you're doing and you may really like love what you're doing, but the thing is you're going to be doing it more because you love it. Again, like I said, I don't do this full time, and I still find myself thinking about cosplay and thinking about YouTube all the time because I just love it that much. I am just so interested in, and I just want to better myself and all that kind of stuff. I'm more likely to abandon my self-care or my own mental health or just like social engagements in order to get stuff done because I enjoy it that much. And whenever I realized that you could still get burnt out doing stuff you love, I think that's when the light bulb like switched on in my brain. Because I mean, it makes sense whenever you think about it. Like burnout is essentially just the buildup of a ton of chronic stress that you've been dealing with and you haven't been dealing with it properly. So I've been making YouTube videos for about 2.5 years. I've been doing that alongside my day job while also making costumes, which essentially, if you look at them, it's like I've got YouTube, I've got my day job, and then I've got cosplay. Excuse me, there goes Aries. So I've got these 3 big things that I'm constantly trying to balance, and I wasn't balancing them well, very clearly. But it was hard for me to wrap my head around that because I loved what I was doing so much. I love answering your guys' comments and DMs and helping you guys with your comments, but I also realized that I didn't have boundaries. I didn't have proper boundaries of when to shut off for the night. I mean, there have been days where it'll be like 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm about ready to go to bed and I'll open up Instagram and I will answer comments or, I will answer DMs. And there have been times where I haven't even had my cup of coffee or haven't even taken my meds yet in the morning and I'm answering comments. Or there was one day that I was writing a freaking Twitter thread before that. And it's like, I need to be better about my boundaries so that I'm not working myself to the bone because I love it so much. Because the thing is your body is not going to give a crap about where your stress came from. It's going to shut down regardless because all stress is like, it feels the same to your body, no matter if it's stress from like your really shitty job that you hate or if it's you working 60, 70-hour weeks on something you absolutely love. If you're not taking care of yourself, your body is going to make you take care of yourself for you. And the worst part of all of this is that I thought I was taking care of myself because cosplay and creating things was my stress relief. I can't tell you how many times I have gone into the basement to sand something, because sometimes just sanding a 3D print is all that I need to, you know, take out a little bit of anger or a little bit of stress. But as this hobby has kind of, you know, transformed into something that I'm doing as a side gig, and I have a lot more responsibilities with it, it kind of silently turned into a stressor for me. So I like didn't even realize it until it was too late. And the worst part about creating right now is that there are definitely a lot of platforms that are prioritizing certain types of content. So if you don't want to make Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, then you better be prepared for your stuff to not really go anywhere or to be lost in the algorithm. And if you end up like forcing yourself to make that content, over time, yeah, you might see some results. Like I've seen good results with Instagram Reels. However, I have to be very careful to not overextend myself, because it gets very exhausting. And I hope that I don't need to explain too much as to why it's really important for us to be creating things that we want to create first and foremost before creating for an algorithm. Like, how many of you would make an Instagram reel if you either A, weren't getting paid for it, or B, it wasn't going to guarantee you like more reach or more exposure in an algorithm? I would probably venture to say that absolutely all of us would not be posting reels. And I wish I could sit here and tell you that every single video I've made on this channel I've made because I 100% wanted to sit down and make it and I was motivated, but that is like absolutely false. And I'm sure all of you would understand that. Like, we're not robots, especially me. Like, I sometimes wake up on days and I have absolutely no motivation to do anything. I'm lucky if I take a shower and like eat all day. And then there's other days where I'm the opposite side, where I'm like hyper focused on just scripting and all these other things that I want to do for cosplay. And those are the days that I really try to harness myself and get as much done. And again, that's tied back to my ADHD. Like, no 2 days are the same for me. You know, some days, again, like I could script for hours, and another day I'm like, I don't want to even look at my camera or even like have it on my desk. And I've lost like weeks of my life sanding 3D prints, but you tell me to reply to an email and I'm like, absolutely not. And it's so frustrating that in order to grow, we are expected to adhere to some arbitrary schedule that these platforms have set out for us. Because like I just explained, stupid scam call. And it's extremely frustrating to me to be expected to show up on a schedule, because I can barely have my personal life on a schedule, let alone like making sure I've got posts and all of that all lined up. And I know that you can schedule, I know you can batch film stuff. I've tried batch filming before, it doesn't work for me. I get too stressed out, I get too in my head about it. So, you know, if it works for you, more power to you. But I don't like that as a solution, because it feels, I don't know, like it feels like it's easier to create whenever you're all in that mindset. However, that's not really how I work most of the time. Like, yeah, I can hyper focus on something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get like multiple things done then. I'm lucky if I get one script done whenever I'm hyper focused. Anyways, the whole point of that is that I hate that there is a schedule that we're supposed to, you know, arbitrarily stick to whenever that's not how we work. That's definitely not how I work. You know, there'll be times where I want to share something and it's like, it's not the right time to share it because it's like 10 o'clock at night and it's, oh, no one's gonna see it if I post it at 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Now you might be sitting there thinking, like, VaultFox, why the hell have you been venting about this, rambling about this for like the past 20 minutes? You don't need to post something. You can take a break. The world is not gonna end if you don't post. It's fine. We get it. Like, things happen. And I really do appreciate that my community especially is very receptive to me like taking breaks and all that kind of stuff. I'm very open about like my mental health struggles and things like that. However, when I try to take a break, I can't. I have to do something. And this goes right back to me getting COVID, where I literally could not do anything other than sleep, and yet I still wanted to do something. I was frustrated that I couldn't do something, and that is how my brain works. I cannot shut it off. I cannot just take a break. If I'm taking a break, it usually means that I'm doing something else. So like playing a video game or something. I cannot do that, you know, actual restful rest that a lot of people can. It always needs to be like active rest or something that's kind of like stimulating my brain in a way. And while I appreciate everyone telling me to take a break, I have a very hard time doing that. But my inability to take a break whenever I was sick really, like, I'm not saying that I'm happy that it happened, but I think I needed it to happen because I finally realized that it's okay if you're not consistent. It's okay to take a couple days to refilm a video because whenever you filmed it, you were rushing and you were desperate because you really needed to get content out. But as you were editing it, you realized that you were basically like a shell of yourself because the desperation was coming through and you were basically sitting there editing your video questioning why you were even doing this in the first place. And the biggest problem for me was I was stretching myself way too thin. You know, I make YouTube videos, I post on Instagram, I do all this stuff. Every comment that I had on a video or every DM that I got on Instagram became this thing that I had to answer immediately because I needed people to know that I was there, that I was here, that like to not forget about me. And it's like I pushed stuff that I wanted to post to the side in favor of things that like I knew would do well in the algorithm. Like for example, I have been mentally putting off this specific video because I know that there are tutorials and stuff that people are waiting for me to put out. But it's something that I just really want to talk about and I really want to get out there because I think that this is more important than showing you how to sand a 3D print this week. There was just like one day where this all came to a head and I thought to myself like, well, why am I posting this? Well, I don't even want to answer comments on this. I'm afraid to answer comments on this. Why, like, do I feel like I have to post this to be consistent so that I can grow? It's just like, it didn't make any sense to me anymore what I was doing. And now it almost feels like I have to, you know, appease the algorithm and stay in its good graces. But it's just, it's not worth it, you know? It's not worth it for me to be putting out stuff that I'm not happy with just to be consistent. Because I'm not a consistent person. Like, I'm not. Like, you may think that I am by the way that I edit my videos and, you know, show up as often as I do online, but I'm not a consistent person. I plan the way that I do and I showcase the way that I plan a lot of my cosplays because I do a lot of the upfront planning when I'm like really excited about it. But the thing is like I can sit around for months and do nothing because it's hard for me to start. It's hard for me to start stuff. Because I didn't know where to start a lot of the time, it felt like I was giving myself control by planning the way that I was. And the thing is I cannot plan like that for every single thing that I do, especially for these videos that I make, because the more planning I do, the more boxed in I feel. And I think that also is in turn what's making me so averse to these like pressures to post these certain things on social media. Those videos that I made a little bit ago that I just was like, I was editing them and I looked at them like, who is this person on the screen? I created them out of desperation, and there's no worse feeling in the world than creating something out of desperation. I want to create because I want to share something, not because I feel like I have to create this for some arbitrary line of code to pick it up, you know, a little bit later for me to gain like maybe 10 followers. I should be making the content that serves me and serves my community first, and then that kind of stuff. Like there was so much self-inflicted stress that I was putting on myself by trying to be on every single social media and trying to, you know, get my name out there everywhere, when I really just needed to step back and reassess and make the things that were important for me first. And if they resonate with people, great. They're probably going to resonate with a smaller group of people, and that's totally fine. But I really, really needed to step back and just reassess what I was doing. So I know I've talked your ear off about the pressure to post on social media, and I do have a couple of solutions. Well, I hesitate to call them solutions, but there are a couple of things that I do whenever I am starting to feel like this immense overwhelm of needing to perform on social media or just needing to produce a lot more than I know that I possibly can. One of the first things that I try to do whenever I'm experiencing this, you can have something that you do purely for yourself. Or if you're going to share it, that you do not put so much pressure on sharing every little bit of it, if that makes sense. And I know what you're thinking, like, oh, Volfox, you just made a whole freaking video about the pressure to create more stuff, and now you're talking about creating more stuff. Well, yeah, I'm working on the things that I want to make. So for example, I have been working on an Edelgard cosplay for, God, almost 2 years now, and I love Fire Emblem. Like, that is my jam, and I know a lot of you are here because I do Star Wars cosplays, and I know whenever I post my Fire Emblem stuff that it doesn't nearly get as much traction or what have you, but the thing is I'm okay with that because that costume is for me. Like, I have even kind of thought about maybe not filming a lot of it because I really want it to be like a passion project, but I do realize that I'm going to want to make tutorials on it, and maybe that's my, you know, oh my god, pressure to make content brain, but I do want to share because I do love that character and I want to help people make that costume if they so please. And another thing that I like to do, and this goes in line with if you feel a pressure to constantly be on or constantly be answering messages or just available to people, I like to schedule times to be on apps. And I schedule times to be on apps for like pleasure, I guess you could say, and also times that I'm literally on the app to answer emails or answer comments or direct messages. Because if I don't have a set time, I will do it whenever the heck I open up the app. And like I said earlier, I have been the person that has been messaging people at 10 o'clock at night or messaging people at 6 in the morning, and it's because I love it. But the thing is I have to stop. I have to stop at some point, or I'm just gonna end up like this, and it's just gonna keep on cycling and cycling until I just get worse. So I'm playing around with the schedule of like from, you know, whenever I wake up in the morning to about 12, I stay off of social media, or I don't allow myself to answer comments or direct messages then. And then around like maybe 12 to 1 o'clock, that's when I will let myself message people or respond back to people. And then from like, I don't know, like the rest of the day, I'm usually pretty relaxed about it and I'll let myself do whatever. But I try to keep the times that I respond to messages in that 1 hour. So I could still post, I could still, you know, like just scroll if I want to, but I try to not respond to messages because it can start to feel like social media the whole time that you're on it is 100% your job. And is having a schedule around this going to just completely change everything? Absolutely not. Like, I can guarantee you that there's going to be a day that I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm just going to be really excited to answer messages, and that's what I'll do. The thing I need to do is be aware of how many days I'm doing that, because if I do that every single day, that's a problem. If I do it like once every week, okay, that's fine. So again, progress is not a straight line. Doing something is better than nothing. And the last thing that I try to do, which is something that Struthless actually talked about in his video, is once I take that step back and realize like what is going on and why I'm feeling so stressed, I usually realize that it's because a lot of the content that I've been putting out wasn't serving me first. It's usually tutorial content breaking down costumes that I really enjoy sharing because I know that it helps you guys. However, that's not the content that I personally like to make. So I try to get back into the habit of adopting the one for me, one for them role. And what that essentially means is I make a video for myself about something that I'm really passionate about, and then the next video I make would be like a tutorial or something that has been highly requested. And then I kind of go back and forth between them. And I know that I have fallen out of doing that. And it's funny because it went the inverse too. Whenever I made the video about why I cosplay, that was such a long video. I spent like almost a month editing that. And after that, I was like, I'm done talking about cosplay. I want to like just talk about the, you know, the technical nitty-gritty, how to make stuff. So it goes both ways. So I need to have a better balance of the content that I'm making for myself first, and then the content that I'm making for like you guys, and the content, and even like the content that would necessarily bring in like new viewers to the channel. And balancing that is pretty hard because, again, sorry to keep talking about ADHD, but I want to talk about the stuff that I want to talk about and that I'm interested in. And even though I made that Bo-Katan costume, I may not be interested in talking about how I made it one week. I kind of have to jump when the iron is hot, or strike when the iron is hot, yeah. And if I'm really excited about something, then I will talk about it that week. And that's kind of what leads me again down this path of burnout, because I want to talk about something until I'm blue in the face with it and I don't want to talk about it anymore. That's something that I personally need to work on, but just so you know, like the whole idea of one for me, one for them sounds easy in theory, but I definitely still struggle with it. But it is a good thing to try and strive for. So those are a few of my strategies for combating this feeling, though I don't feel like they're very great strategies that I put into place because I'm still at this place that I am. I don't think I'm ever going to figure out how to balance everything, but I would love to know if you guys have any strategies, things that have worked for you to kind of, you know, take the pressure off of posting like these companies want us to post all the time, but I did want to leave you guys with some kind of like, I guess, like uplifting kind of motivational stuff. Now, I know that a lot of people struggle with numbers whenever it comes to social media. You know, you always want to have more views on your videos. You always want to have more likes on your stuff. However, I talked on the Maker's Method podcast, oh my goodness, I forget how long ago, but whenever I was talking with them, something came up and we were talking about, again, numbers, and we were talking about, you know, getting discouraged by low view counts and that kind of stuff. And I had an experience where on my channel, I made a video about how to make an M8 Avenger from Mass Effect. It's a foam tutorial. I'll link it here for you guys. It was kind of chaotic because I ended up like cutting off the freaking rifle base of it and redoing it, but it wasn't one of my more popular videos. I mean, a lot of people really are into my 3D printing stuff on this channel, so I kind of expected it to not do well. And I think at the time, whenever I was talking to Maker's Method, the video maybe had like 800 views. It might have had, I don't know, it hadn't broken 1,000, and I don't know what it has now. So last year at C2E2, I was walking around on the floor as Bo with my husband Mando, and as we were walking out of the hall, I spotted a Commander Shepard far away. And I was like, ooh, I really like that Shepard. I want to go say hi. I want to like go like compliment their costume and all that stuff. So we go up, we like start talking, and I say, oh my god, your Shepard looks great. And he just turns to me and he goes, are you Vault Fox? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I used your tutorial for this gun and I followed your tutorials to make this armor. And I was like, I still, like, to this day, it is one of like my favorite interactions that I've ever had, because there's no better feeling than you being in person and someone telling you to your face, like, you helped me make this, or you inspired me to make this. Because that, like I said at the beginning of the video, that's really what I want this channel to be about. That's what I want people to get from this channel, is just the inspiration to make stuff and like become your favorite characters and do that kind of stuff. And I actually ran into him at C2E2 again this year. Like, it's just so crazy, you know? And if I would have just been concerned about the numbers on that video, I'd be like, oh, well, only like 1,000 people saw this video. That's 1,000 people. You know, that is a lot of people that I can't quantify in my head. I don't know what 1,000 people looks like. It's kind of sad, and I try to remind myself as much as I can, like, no, that's a lot of people. And that is not even counting like lurkers and people who don't necessarily comment on your stuff. Because here's the thing, I'm actually a lurker whenever it comes to Twitch. I watch a lot of people on Twitch, but I don't really comment and like engage and stuff because I consider that my like brain switch off time. There's always going to be lurkers. There's always going to be people who are anticipating your work, even if you don't know it. I really got to stop being in the weeds about these numbers, because like obviously more numbers and more views and stuff means more money, but at the same time, as dumb as it sounds, but money can't buy the way that I felt whenever someone tells me that I inspired them to make something, and I'm literally seeing it there in the flesh, like, holy crap, I was the inspiration for you to make that. Like, it's such a great feeling. If there's anything that you take away from this video, let it be to just like make the stuff that you really want to make. You know, there's going to be times that you're going to have to make stuff for the algorithm, especially if you want to grow, but don't let that be in disservice of you making the things that you truly, really want to make and put out there. If you're passionate about it and you're just, you know, unapologetically annoying about it, people will find you and they will appreciate the passion that you have for it. And you really want to make these things for yourself first, because you're going to be spending a lot of time making this thing with yourself. I think a lot of people, whenever they get into cosplay or they don't know much about it, they don't realize just how much time you spend alone making this stuff. And I think that's why the whole algorithm and not getting your stuff out there hurts so much, because that's all that we want to do. Is all we really want to do is share what we're making with like-minded people, so that we can make friends, we can kind of discuss things like that. And that, I think, is really at the root of why all of this algorithmic bullshit really sucks, because the bulk of what we're doing, not even in just cosplay, but like a lot of other hobbies, it's very isolating. It's very lonely. That's probably why it stings so bad whenever you put something into the world and people don't see it. And the bummer of all that is I don't have a solution for that, other than if you make stuff for yourself first, you will at least have that innate satisfaction of, yeah, I did this thing, I made it, and it's mine. Cosplay is not content. You know, art is not content. It is something that we make because we have this We just need to make it. And I don't mean need in a need to make it to serve an algorithm way. I mean you just love something so much that you just need to make it real. You have to create it with your own hands. And we really need to get back to remembering that. So those are my thoughts. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye!